Hello there. Welcome back to the podcast. As always, I'm so glad you're here to join me today. I think what we're going to be talking about today is likely going to really hit home with you. It's this idea that I hear from so many of my clients when I go into their homes to help them organize their spaces. Okay. And that's that so many of them tell me, Lauren, organization is hard. It is hard to set aside this time. It's time consuming. It's hard work to declutter your space, to make those decisions. It is hard to get your space organized, especially for the first time when you're coming from a life and a space that is very disorganized, right? They tell me this is hard work and it's very time consuming. And then when you look at maintaining it, that's more hard work and more time that you have to put into it. Then there's all the whole mental side of things, of how exhausting that can be. I mentioned the idea of all the decisions that you have to make. And I don't disagree with them. Yes, getting and staying organized is hard work. It is time consuming. Yes, especially when you're just getting started, especially when you are, at that point where you want and need to make a change in the way that you're living. When you are coming from a space of disorganization, there's a lot to do. And you're right, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes determination, it takes so many things. It's hard. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you have heard other people say this. This is one of those situations when you really have to choose your hard, because that's the choice that you're making. Living in a state of disorganization is also very hard. It is also time consuming, trying to figure out where that thing is that you know you need now, but you can't find it because you don't have a home for it and because you have clutter maybe everywhere. Maybe it's, contained to a certain area of your home. Maybe it's your whole home. Whatever the situation is, living in disorganization is also hard. It's also time consuming. It's also frustrating and mentally draining. When you're honest with yourself, it is not easy living in disorganization. So where's the disconnect there? The disconnect is just that there's a certain familiarity for you in your disorganization. That's maybe how it's always been for you, or perhaps it's how it's been for a long time. Maybe it wasn't always that way, but that's how it's been for a while now. And so you get used to it and you're more comfortable. It feels more comfortable. It feels easier to just keep dealing with this hard that's more familiar to you. And I really want you to take a moment to challenge that in your own mind and stop and think, am I telling myself that it's harder to get organized and more time consuming and more effort for me to get organized and stay organized simply because this disorganization is more familiar to me? And if it is, if you're ready to get real with yourself and say, yeah, it's just familiar and I'm ready to change and choose my hard in organization, then this episode's for you, my friend. This one is for you. I came across a quote by the author Casey Davis recently. She wrote the book, I think it's called How to Keep House When You're Drowning. So if that title of that book just resonated with you, How to Keep House When You're Drowning, look it up. Okay. I know there's an audio. I listened to it When I read it, I listened to it as an audiobook. So you could get it from your library, listen to the audiobook. There's a lot of really good nuggets. There are some things in there that I don't agree with, and that's okay. Casey Davis and I don't have to see eye to eye on everything. You and I don't have to see eye to eye on anything. But I love how she leans into helping individuals who truly feel like they are drowning in life and it could be for a variety of reasons. She leaves that very open-ended in her book. But she says in her book, you don't exist to serve your space. Your space exists to serve you. And I think it's really awesome to think of our space in this way because I think so much of our thinking around the fact that getting organized and staying organized is hard revolves around this idea of serving our space. But when you kind of flip that mental script and think about how you want your space to serve you so that life flows more naturally, so that life feels easier, so that you're able to enjoy the parts of life and have a little bit less stress, a little bit less frustration in your life around dealing with disorganization, and be able to then free up that mental space to enjoy the things you want to enjoy in your life. That's what organization can help, build this foundation for you. And so I want to offer you kind of revisiting some steps to take if you are still working on choosing organization. Because listening to this podcast is great and it can be motivating for, short periods of time. But if you're continuing to just listen to this podcast and not take action, I want to know what that barrier is for you. What's holding you back? What's keeping you from choosing a different hard that's going to help make life better for you? You can come on over to Instagram. If you want to chat with me, come on over. Declutter.360 is my Instagram handle. And you can come over, you can send me a message. You can comment on any of my posts if you want to. But honestly, I want to invite you to come on over and just send me a DM. Send me a DM and start that conversation. Tell me, what's that roadblock for you? What's keeping you choosing the hard that is disorganization? What keeps you coming back to that rather than flipping the script and coming on over and starting living your organized life? If you're ready, here's what you need to do. The first thing is to start with decluttering. Because what I don't want you to do is set yourself up to continue managing things in your home that you don't need to be managing. Things that you don't want, things that you don't need, things that you don't use, things that you don't love. Okay. So the very first step before you even try to get organized is that you have to go through your stuff and purge. And whether that is, kind of starting in categories, you grab a trash bag and you go through and you say, I just need to go through all of this and look and see what's trash and get all the trash weeded out. Maybe you have lots of delivery boxes that you need to just clean out, break down those boxes and get them out of the way so you can see, what's next. And then maybe you grab another bag, or maybe you use some of those boxes that needed to be broken down. You don't break those down at all, but you start piling things in there that you no longer want and need that are still in good, usable condition that could be donated. You clear out all the things like that. Okay. But you have to start with choosing the items that you want to manage. And you do that through the decluttering process. Okay. So then you are left to manage the items and the amount of things that you actually want and can manage. Does that make sense? Once you're done with the decluttering stage and purging, that's when you can move on to organization. And instead of really, really digging in deep to this, because I can totally do that here, I want to suggest that you go back and listen to episode 5. Episode 5, way back at the beginning of the podcast. And I hit this one early because it is such an important piece of allowing you to live life organized in the most functional way. Episode 5 was all about maximizing the real estate within your home. So it's going to help you really think through all those items that you chose to manage, that you chose to keep in your home, right? And so then it's going to help you really think through where's the best place for them? Where can I keep these items within my home that it's going to make it the easiest for me to use them when I'm ready to use them. It's going to create like kind of the least restrictive environment for me within my home and maximize the functionality. That's what you want to do. So go back and listen to episode 5 if you need some help and some guidance with that. Another thing, kind of the third step, is that you need to know what I like to call the clutter threshold. Okay, because there's a very different, idea between being organized and being tidy. Okay, and I think sometimes people get that confused. Okay, you can be very organized but not be very tidy. You can also be very tidy but not be organized at all. So at this point in step 3, you've gotten yourself organized. Okay, that was step 2. That was figuring out your real estate, maximizing the functionality for yourself, right? So step 3 is knowing how tidy you want to keep your space. What level of tidiness does your organizational system start to fall apart at, right? So when you know your clutter threshold or your tidiness needs, then you can kind of just monitor that, because being organized doesn't also mean that every single item is perfectly in its place at every moment. There are probably people out there who can manage that. I am not even one of those people, my friends, okay? There are times when my house gets a little cluttered, when things get a little chaotic. We are, starting a new school year. Our routines are different. We're getting used to them. There's new stuff coming in and out, different sports schedules, things like that are starting up. Everybody's kind of settling in. And so it's bringing a little bit of a different level of chaos, but I know my tidiness threshold. I recognize when it's getting to that point where I'm going, ooh, it's starting to bother me, right? And I'm seeing some of my organizational, systems that I have set up are breaking down a little bit. It's making it hard for us to locate that snack bag. It's making it hard for us to find the soccer water bottle. We need to do a reset. That's step 4. So when you know your clutter threshold, you know what level of tidiness you need to function the best and what level of tidiness helps keep your organizational systems intact the way you've designed them to help support you, then you can recognize when it's coming time for a reset. Now, recognizing that it's coming time for a reset doesn't mean you have to stop everything right at that moment and reset your space. If you have time, more power to you. Go for it. Even if you just have the time to pick up a few things and put them back where they belong, if that helps bring that clutter threshold down and make you feel better, great, do it. If you have to say, okay, I don't have time to do it right now, or like we talked about in the last episode, I don't have the energy or, the kind of the stamina to be doing that right now. That is not what I want to do. Put it on your let's go list. Have you made one of those yet? I tell you, that thing saves me so often. It really truly is the idea of being able to let it go off of my mental load and be able to put it down on my let's go list, have it on my phone where I don't see it all the time, but I know I can look at my let's go list. And I look at it not every day, but most days, even just whether it's that I'm adding something to it or I'm feeling ready to work on something from the list. I look at that list almost daily. And, being able to put resetting a space on your let's go list is a perfect opportunity to use that. So if you are recognizing, okay, this space is reaching my clutter threshold, it is bothering me, my organizational systems are breaking down, I'm not feeling supported by them, life is getting hard again. I need to add a reset to my let's go list. You can even take it a step further if you want to and put it on your calendar. Look and see, okay, do I have a free evening where I could tackle this after work? Or, maybe do I have some time when I could take care of that in the morning before a soccer game or something like that? Yeah, I could give 30 minutes to doing this. Even better, when can I recruit my family to get on board and help me with this? Because remember, organization, if you're not the only person living in your house, you're not the only person responsible for keeping that space, to a certain level of tidiness that helps serve your whole family and everyone living within your space. All right, my friends. So let's kind of recap that. So when you are ready to choose the hard, right, of stepping into organization, stepping into making that change for yourself. First, you're going to declutter and purge so that you're only managing the items that you want and need to manage. Then you're going to work on setting up your space in the most functional, organized way that you can by utilizing the real estate within your space in the best way possible. Go back to episode 5 if you need help with that. You're going to identify and know your clutter threshold. And then you're going to kind of watch and just loosely monitor that as you live your life and recognize when those organizational systems are breaking down and your tidiness threshold is being reached. Okay. And then you can move into to number 4, where you're going to reset your space. Set that time, add it onto your let's go list if you need to, tackle it little bits of time, recruit your family for help. This is how you can break down those barriers and move yourself from choosing the hard of living disorganized to choosing a different hard that's going to help simplify and make life better for you through organization. Hey, friend, before I let you go today, I want to invite you, if you haven't already, to rate this podcast. It's really simple on almost every podcast platform that we are available on. It's just a simple click for you to leave a rating. And if you haven't done so yet, I would love for you to do that. If you have time to leave a short review, that would be amazing as well. I hope you have an amazing day and come back next week to join me for another episode of the Declutter 360 podcast.